The temperate Atlantic waters, situated off the shoreline of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, had concealed their mystery for 9 long years. On a bright August morning in 2024, a group of recreational scuba diving enthusiasts exploring a reef formation approximately 2 miles from the shore made a discovery that would ultimately provide the answer to the question that had tormented a family and fascinated the entire nation. What truly happened to Ashley Mitchell during that summer of 2015? What these divers uncovered within a rocky fissure 20 feet beneath the ocean's surface would transform one of South Carolina's most widely publicized missing person investigations from an unresolved mystery into a heartbreaking tragedy with devastating consequences. The skeletal human remains, partially hidden by aquatic vegetation and ocean sediment, were found alongside personal belongings that would result in a positive identification within a matter of days. Ashley Mitchell had been 19 years of age when she disappeared during 4th of July weekend in 2015, vanishing from a packed beach celebration while enjoying festivities with her friends. The enormous search operation that ensued involved hundreds upon hundreds of volunteer searchers, Coast Guard watercraft, aerial helicopters, and some of the most sophisticated search equipment available during that time period. Yet, despite all those extensive resources and the tremendous media attention that made Ashley's face instantly recognizable throughout America, absolutely no trace of her had been located for nearly an entire decade. Before we disclose what law enforcement investigators discovered regarding that fatal summer evening and the various theories about what actually happened to Ashley Mitchell, please make certain you're subscribed to our channel and press that notification bell. Today's narrative will guide you through a case that serves to remind us that even our most relaxed and carefree moments can transform into tragedy in a single instant, and that sometimes the ocean maintains its mysteries far longer than any family should ever have to endure. This represents the story of Ashley Mitchell, a lively and energetic college student with her entire life stretching out before her, and the summer vacation that concluded in a mystery that would require 9 years to resolve. In the summer season of 2015, Ashley Marie Mitchell was 19 years of age and preparing to commence her sophomore year at the University of South Carolina located in Columbia. Standing 5 feet 6 inches tall with long, flowing brown hair that she frequently enhanced with blonde highlights, Ashley possessed bright blue eyes, an infectious and memorable laugh, and the sort of natural magnetism that made her the focal point of attention at any social gathering. Her friends consistently described her as someone who could illuminate an entire room simply by entering it. Ashley had been raised in Greenville, South Carolina, as the middle child within a close-knit and loving family unit. Her father, James Mitchell, was the owner of a successful landscaping business enterprise, while her mother, Karen Mitchell, was employed as an elementary school teacher. Ashley had an older brother named Tyler, who was 22 years old and working as an accountant in Charlotte, and a younger sister named Emma, who was 16 during the summer of 2015 and looked up to her older sister with great admiration. From a very early age, Ashley had been naturally drawn to creative and artistic pursuits. She was an accomplished and skilled dancer who had received training in ballet, jazz, and contemporary dance styles throughout her entire childhood and teenage years. Her high school dance team had achieved multiple state championships, with Ashley serving in the role of captain during her senior year. However, her genuine passion was photography, and she had enrolled at the University of South Carolina as a visual arts major with aspirations of becoming a professional photographer with a specialty in travel and lifestyle content creation. At the University of South Carolina, Ashley had flourished both in her academic studies and in her social life. She maintained a respectable grade point average while simultaneously working part-time at a campus coffee shop establishment to earn spending money and contribute to her expenses. She had joined a sorority organization, made dozens upon dozens of friends, and had begun building an impressive portfolio of photography work that her professors consistently praised for its unique perspective and technical proficiency. Her Instagram social media account, where she regularly posted her photographs, had gained a following of several thousand people who genuinely appreciated her exceptional eye for capturing authentic and genuine moments. Ashley's personality represented a compelling and interesting mixture of adventurous spirit and authentic kindness. She was the type of friend who would organize impromptu and spontaneous road trips, who would remain awake throughout the entire night, helping someone prepare and study for an examination, who remembered everyone's birthdays without fail, and always appeared with thoughtful and meaningful gifts. Her roommate, Jessica Williams, later informed investigators that Ashley possessed a special gift for making people feel truly seen and genuinely valued, that she collected friends from all different walks of life, and that her dormitory room was constantly and consistently filled with people drawn to her warmth and positive energy. Despite her sociable and outgoing nature, Ashley was simultaneously responsible and careful regarding her personal safety. She had completed self-defense classes, always made certain to let someone know where she was traveling, and was conscious and aware about not taking unnecessary or foolish risks. Her parents had raised her to be independent, yet cautious, and she had never once given them any reason to worry about her judgment or decision-making abilities. The summer season of 2015 had been completely full of promise and potential for Ashley. She had completed her freshman year with strong and impressive grades and had successfully secured a summer internship position at a photography studio in Greenville, learning professional techniques and building valuable connections within the industry. She had also been systematically saving money for a study abroad program in Italy that she was planning to attend during her junior year. When Ashley and three of her closest friends from the University of South Carolina, Jessica Williams, Lauren Davis, and Megan Taylor, made the decision to spend the 4th of July weekend at Myrtle Beach, it appeared like the perfect opportunity to celebrate the summer season and their friendship. The four young women had been planning and preparing for the trip for several weeks, booking a hotel room at a beachfront resort property, researching the best restaurants and bars in the area, and making detailed plans to watch the fireworks display that Myrtle Beach was particularly famous for. Ashley had been especially excited and enthusiastic about the trip because it would provide her with numerous opportunities to photograph the beach scenery, the crowds of people, and the spectacular fireworks. She had packed her professional camera equipment alongside her regular vacation clothing, planning to build and enhance her portfolio with some dynamic summer imagery. She informed her mother that she was going to capture the magic of summer, and that the photographs would represent some of her finest and best work. The plan was straightforward and simple. The four friends would drive to Myrtle Beach on Friday morning, July 3rd, spend Friday and Saturday enjoying the beach and the Independence Day festivities and celebrations, and drive back to their respective homes on Sunday, July 5th. Ashley's parents had given their complete blessing and approval for the trip, though Karen Mitchell later acknowledged and admitted that she had experienced a vague sense of unease and discomfort that she couldn't quite explain or articulate. A mother's intuition that something felt somehow off about the timing or the plan. On Thursday, July 2nd, the evening immediately before the trip, Ashley had dinner with her family at their Greenville home residence. Emma, her younger sister, vividly remembered that Ashley had been overflowing and bubbling with excitement, showing them her photography equipment and discussing at length all the shots and images she wanted to capture. Tyler had playfully teased her about being too cool for family dinners now that she was a college girl, and Ashley had laughed warmly and hugged him tightly, promising to bring back photographs of the beach for everyone in the family. Ashley Mitchell was, by all reasonable accounts, a young woman who approached her life with tremendous enthusiasm and boundless optimism. She possessed dreams she was actively and consistently pursuing, relationships she deeply cherished and valued, and a future that appeared bright and absolutely full of possibility. She was careful but never fearful, adventurous but never reckless, social but never careless. She was precisely the kind of person who should have experienced many more summers stretching ahead of her, many more photographs to capture, many more cherished memories to create. On the evening of July 4th, 2015, Ashley departed from her hotel room wearing denim shorts, a white tank top, and her favorite turquoise-colored sandals. She had her camera equipment slung over her shoulder and her mobile phone in her pocket. She was smiling broadly as she and her friends walked in the direction of the beach, Tonatha, to join thousands upon thousands of other people celebrating Independence Day. She was planning and intending to photograph the fireworks display and then return to the hotel to edit and process her images before posting them online. But Ashley Mitchell would never return to that hotel room, would never edit those photographs, would never witness another sunrise over the Atlantic Ocean. And the profound mystery of what happened to her during those chaotic and confusing hours of celebration would become one of the most haunting and disturbing unsolved cases in South Carolina history, captivating true crime enthusiasts nationwide, and devastating a family who would spend 9 long years searching desperately for answers. Saturday, July 4th, 2015, began hot and humid in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, with temperatures climbing and rising into the low 90s by midday. Ashley Mitchell and her 3 friends had spent the morning hours and early afternoon on the beach, swimming in the warm Atlantic waters, taking numerous photographs, and enjoying the carefree and relaxed atmosphere of one of the busiest holiday weekends of the entire summer season. The 4 young women had checked into the Oceanfront Resort Hotel on Friday afternoon, getting settled into their beachfront room with its spectacular view of the ocean and the crowded boardwalk area below. Friday night had been relatively low-key and uneventful. Dinner at a seafood restaurant establishment, a leisurely walk along the beach, and an early night in preparation for the big Independence Day celebration scheduled for Saturday. Saturday morning had commenced at 9 o'clock in the morning when the girls awakened and headed down to stake out a favorable spot on the beach. Ashley had her camera with her constantly and continuously, capturing candid shots and images of her friends, the ocean, the families building sand castles, and the steadily growing crowds gathering for the holiday festivities. Jessica Williams later informed investigators that Ashley had been in particularly good spirits and high morale, excited and enthusiastic about the photos she was obtaining, and talking about how she wanted to capture the fireworks from different and various angles that evening. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the group had lunch at a beachside cafe establishment, where Ashley posted several photographs to her Instagram with captions mentioning summer magic and best friends, best times. The posts received hundreds upon hundreds of likes within mere minutes, with friends leaving comments about how much fun and enjoyment they looked like they were having. At 3:30 in the afternoon, Ashley called her mother from the beach. A brief and short conversation where she reported that everything was progressing great and that she'd call again on Sunday before they departed from Myrtle Beach. As evening hours approached, the beach became increasingly and progressively crowded. By 7 o'clock in the evening, tens of thousands of people had assembled and gathered along the shoreline for the fireworks display scheduled to commence at 9:30 in the evening. The atmosphere was festive and chaotic, with beach blankets and towels covering every single available space, music playing from dozens of portable speakers, and the distinctive smell of sunscreen mixed and mingled with grilled food from nearby vendors and food stands. Ashley and her friends had dinner at their hotel around 6:30 in the evening, then returned to their room to change clothes and prepare themselves for the evening ahead. Ashley changed into denim shorts and a white tank top, grabbed her camera equipment, and made absolutely certain her phone was fully charged. The group departed from the hotel at 8:15 in the evening, walking the short distance to the beach to locate a spot to watch the fireworks display. The main event commenced at 9:30 in the evening with spectacular and impressive fireworks illuminating the night sky over the Atlantic Ocean. Ashley was completely in her element, moving and weaving through the crowd to obtain different angles for her photographs, her camera raised high as she captured the explosions of color and light against the darkness. Her friends remained in one general location and area, periodically checking and verifying that Ashley was nearby. But the massive crowd and the darkness and shadows between fireworks bursts made it difficult and challenging to keep track of each other constantly. The fireworks display lasted approximately 30 minutes in duration, ending at 10 o'clock in the evening with a grand finale that brought enthusiastic cheers and applause from the assembled crowd. As the smoke cleared and dissipated, and the overhead lights from nearby hotels and business establishments illuminated the beach area, Jessica, Lauren, and Megan suddenly realized they had completely lost sight of Ashley. Initially and at first, they weren't particularly concerned or worried. The three friends naturally assumed Ashley was somewhere nearby, perhaps taking final shots and images of the crowd or the post-fireworks scene. They attempted calling her phone, but the call went directly straight to voicemail. Not particularly unusual given that cell towers in the area were likely completely overwhelmed by thousands of people trying to make calls and use their phones simultaneously after the display concluded. At 10:25 in the evening, growing slightly concerned and worried, the three friends began walking through the crowd, calling out Ashley's name and showing her photograph to people nearby, asking if anyone had seen her recently. Several people thought they recognized her from earlier in the evening, but absolutely no one had seen her in the past 20 minutes. By 10:45 in the evening, Jessica, Lauren, and Megan were genuinely worried and concerned. They walked back to their hotel, hoping and expecting Ashley had returned there. But the room was completely empty. They checked and searched the hotel lobby, the pool area, and nearby restaurants and establishments. At 11:15 in the evening, they returned to the beach with flashlights, searching the area and location where they had been watching the fireworks. At 11:47 in the evening, Lauren Davis discovered Ashley's camera lying abandoned in the sand near the water's edge, approximately 200 yards from where they had been standing during the fireworks display. The camera was still powered on, though the battery was nearly completely dead. The last photographs taken were time-stamped at 9:58 in the evening, showing and depicting the grand finale of the fireworks display. But there were absolutely no photos after that specific time, no indication whatsoever of where Ashley had gone or what had happened in the 47 minutes since those final shots were captured. The three friends immediately and without hesitation called 911 emergency services. The Myrtle Beach Police Department dispatched officers to the scene and location at 12:03 in the morning on Sunday, July 5th. By 12:30 in the morning, a dozen officers were thoroughly searching the beach with high-powered flashlights, interviewing the remaining beachgoers, and beginning to coordinate what would ultimately become one of the largest search efforts in the IUTE city's entire history. At 1:15 in the morning, Ashley's phone was located and found in the sand about 50 feet from where her camera had been discovered. The phone was still powered on, but had absolutely no new activity since 9:52 in the evening, when Ashley had sent a text message to Jessica saying, "Got some amazing shots. This is incredible." The phone's battery was at 67%, completely ruling out the possibility that it had died and prevented Ashley from calling for help or assistance. At 1:30 in the morning, officers made the absolutely dreaded call to James and Karen Mitchell in Greenville. The conversation was brief, but utterly devastating. Their daughter had disappeared and vanished from a crowded beach in Myrtle Beach. Her camera and phone had been found abandoned near the water, and a massive search effort was currently underway. James and Karen immediately got in their car and began the 3-hour drive to the coast, with Tyler and Emma following behind in a second vehicle. By 2 o'clock in the morning, the Myrtle Beach Police Department had called in additional resources and support, including K-9 units trained specifically in water searches, and the United States Coast Guard to begin searching the waters offshore. The distinct possibility that Ashley had entered the water and drowned, either accidentally or intentionally, was the immediate primary theory and hypothesis, given where her belongings had been located and found. As dawn broke and appeared over Myrtle Beach on Sunday morning, the scope and scale of the search for Ashley Mitchell had expanded dramatically and exponentially. Coast Guard vessels were patrolling the waters up to 5 miles offshore. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging cameras were flying search patterns over the ocean and beach areas, and hundreds of volunteers had joined law enforcement personnel in thoroughly combing the shoreline and nearby areas. The Mitchell family arrived at the Myrtle Beach Police Department headquarters at 4:30 in the morning, completely exhausted and absolutely terrified. Detective Robert Williams, a 15-year veteran of the department who specialized in missing persons cases and investigations, took the lead position on the investigation. After interviewing Jessica, Lauren, and Megan extensively and thoroughly, Detective Williams established a comprehensive timeline and began developing various theories about what might have happened. The physical evidence was limited but significant and important. Ashley's camera and phone had been found near the water's edge, strongly suggesting she had been in that area at some point after the fireworks ended. The camera showed absolutely no signs of a struggle or forced removal from her person. It had simply been set down or dropped in the sand. The phone similarly showed no indication of distress or trouble. The last text message had been cheerful and excited. Security cameras from nearby hotels and business establishments provided crucial footage and recordings, though the quality was limited and poor due to the darkness and the massive crowds. The footage showed and depicted Ashley moving through the crowd during the fireworks display, her camera raised as she photographed the show and spectacle. At 9:54 in the evening, she was captured on a hotel security camera walking toward the water's edge, still holding her camera equipment. That was the last confirmed visual evidence and documentation of Ashley Mitchell. Witnesses began coming forward throughout Sunday morning with information and details about the previous evening. Several people remembered and recalled seeing a young woman matching Ashley's description near the water around 10 o'clock in the evening. One witness, a tourist from Ohio named Mark Patterson, told investigators he had seen a young woman with a camera walking along the water's edge alone and by herself, seemingly photographing the aftermath of the fireworks and the crowds dispersing and leaving. More concerning and troubling was a report from another witness, Sarah Chen, who told police she had seen a young woman matching Ashley's description. talking and conversing with a man near the water around 10:15 in the evening. Sarah couldn't provide detailed descriptions of the man due to the darkness and distance, but she remembered thinking it was odd and unusual that the young woman had seemed to be following the man away from the main crowd toward a darker, less populated section of the beach. By Sunday afternoon, the Coast Guard had conducted extensive and thorough searches of the waters where Ashley's belongings were discovered, using sonar equipment and dive teams. They found absolutely no sign of Ashley in the immediate area and vicinity. The ocean currents on that particular night had been relatively calm and mild, which meant that if Ashley had entered the water at the location where her items were found, her body should have been recovered relatively quickly unless it had been trapped beneath underwater structures or formations. The investigation expanded and broadened to include the distinct possibility of foul play. Detectives reviewed and examined registered sex offenders in the Myrtle Beach area, interviewed hotel staff and beachfront business employees, and began the painstaking and laborious process of trying to identify and locate everyone who had been on that stretch of beach during the crucial time period. Ashley's friends underwent polygraph examinations and tests, all of which they passed successfully. Their accounts and descriptions of the evening were consistent and aligned with each other and with the physical evidence. They had absolutely no motive to harm Ashley, and investigators found no indication that there had been any conflict or problems between Ashley and her friends. The media coverage of Ashley's disappearance was immediate and intense and overwhelming. By Sunday evening, her story was being covered and reported by local and national news outlets. The image of a beautiful college student vanishing from a crowded holiday celebration captured public attention and interest, and tips began pouring into the police hotline. Unfortunately, most were well-intentioned but unhelpful, reported sightings that turned out to be other young women, or speculation and theories without factual basis. As the first week of the investigation concluded without finding Ashley or developing solid leads about what had happened to her, the Mitchell family faced the horrifying reality that their daughter might never be found or located. The ocean, with its powerful currents and vast expanse, could hide secrets indefinitely and forever. And in the chaos and confusion of a holiday weekend with tens of thousands of people on the beach, finding witnesses with reliable information was proving nearly impossible and extremely challenging. The case of Ashley Mitchell's disappearance would remain active, but increasingly cold as weeks turned to months, then months turned to years. Her family would never stop searching, never stop hoping, but they would learn to live with the agonizing uncertainty of not knowing the truth. And the Atlantic Ocean would keep and maintain its secret for 9 more long years, until that August morning in 2024 when recreational divers finally discovered what had happened. To the vibrant young photographer who had simply wanted to capture the magic of summer. As 2015 turned into 2016, the intensive search for Ashley Mitchell gradually transitioned and shifted from active daily operations to a case that remained open, but with diminishing and decreasing resources devoted to new leads and information. The Myrtle Beach Police Department kept the file active and open, with Detective Williams periodically following up on tips and reviewing the evidence, but without Ashley's body or significant new information, there was very little forward momentum or progress. The Mitchell family refused to accept that Ashley was gone forever and permanently. James Mitchell took out a second mortgage on their Greenville home to fund and finance private investigators and search efforts. Karen Mitchell quit her teaching job to dedicate herself full-time to finding her daughter, creating a Facebook page called Find Ashley Mitchell that would eventually accumulate over 50,000 followers and supporters. Tyler struggled with intense survivor's guilt, wondering and questioning if he should have been more protective of his younger sister. Emma, just 16 when Ashley disappeared, had her teenage years defined and shaped by the absence of her older sister. The family organized and coordinated annual searches during 4th of July weekend, returning to Myrtle Beach with volunteers to walk the beaches, distribute flyers and information, and keep Ashley's case in the public eye and awareness. Each year, the turnout was smaller and less substantial, the media coverage less extensive and thorough, but the Mitchell family never missed a single anniversary, never stopped hoping that someone would come forward with information and details. In 2016, the case was featured on Disappeared, a television program dedicated to missing persons cases and investigations. The episode generated thousands of new tips and leads, but none led to Ashley or provided concrete answers and information. A psychic contacted the family claiming to have visions and insights about Ashley's location, leading to several fruitless searches based on the psychic's descriptions and claims. Each dead end brought renewed grief and disappointment and heartbreak. The following year, 2017, brought what seemed like a potential breakthrough and development. A hiker in the North Carolina mountains found and discovered a camera that appeared similar to Ashley's distinctive professional model. The camera was sent to forensic experts for analysis and examination, and for 3 agonizing weeks, the Mitchell family waited anxiously, hoping it might contain clues about what had happened to their daughter. The analysis ultimately showed and revealed that while it was the same model as Ashley's camera, it was not the same individual unit, and had absolutely no connection whatsoever to the case. Throughout these years, the ocean continued to give up and surrender bodies along the Carolina coast, drowning victims, boating accident casualties, and occasionally murder victims. But none were Ashley. Each time remains were discovered anywhere along the Atlantic seaboard and coastline, the Mitchell family would receive a call from investigators, asking for dental records or DNA samples for comparison and analysis. Each negative result was both a relief and a crushing blow and disappointment. By 2018, 3 years after Ashley's disappearance, the Myrtle Beach Police Department had interviewed over 300 people who had been on the beach that 4th of July night. They had reviewed hundreds upon hundreds of hours of security footage, analyzed thousands of photos posted to social media platforms from that evening, and investigated every credible tip and lead. But without physical evidence, without witnesses to what happened after Ashley walked toward the water's edge, the case remained frustratingly unsolvable and mysterious. The man that witnessed Sarah Chen had reported seeing talking and conversing with a young woman matching Ashley's description was never identified or located. Police released a composite sketch based on Sarah's vague description, but it was so generic and nonspecific: white or Hispanic male, medium build, dark clothing, that it could have matched thousands upon thousands of men. The sketch generated dozens of tips and leads, but none were substantiated or verified. In 2020, Detective Williams retired from the Myrtle Beach Police Department, passing Ashley's case to Detective Michael Thompson, a younger investigator who brought fresh eyes and a new perspective to the evidence. Thompson re-interviewed key witnesses, employed new forensic techniques to analyze the photos from Ashley's camera, and worked with oceanographers to model where a body entering the water at the location where Ashley's belongings were found might have drifted and traveled. The oceanographic analysis suggested and indicated that if Ashley had drowned on the night she disappeared, and if her body hadn't been recovered within the first few days, it could have been carried considerable distances by ocean currents. Bodies that end up in rocky areas or caught and trapped in underwater structures can remain hidden for years or even decades, protected from the natural processes that would typically bring them to the surface or back to shore. The Mitchell family's grief was compounded and intensified by their inability to properly mourn and grieve. They couldn't hold a funeral service without a body. They couldn't have closure without knowing what had happened. They existed in a liminal and uncertain state of not knowing, unable to move forward, but unable to remain in the past. Holidays became absolute torture. Birthdays, a painful reminder of all the milestones Ashley would never reach or achieve. Karen Mitchell became involved and active with the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, working diligently to improve how missing persons cases were tracked and investigated across the entire country. She channeled her grief into activism and advocacy, helping other families navigate the nightmare of having a missing loved one. But privately, she confided to friends that part of her had died the day Ashley disappeared, and that she would never be whole or complete again until she knew the truth. By 2024, 9 years after Ashley's disappearance, the case had become part of true crime lore and culture. It was discussed and debated in online forums, featured in podcasts and shows, and referenced in articles about unsolved disappearances and mysteries. Ashley's smiling face from her Instagram photos had become iconic and symbolic, representing not just her individual tragedy, but the hundreds of young people who vanish each year in similar circumstances and situations. The Aussie duo Mitchell family had learned to live with uncertainty and doubt, though live might be too strong a word and description. They existed, they continued, they marked time and days, but they never stopped hoping that someday, somehow, they would get answers and the truth. August 17, 2024, was a Saturday, and the conditions off the coast of Myrtle Beach were ideal and perfect for diving activities. A group of 6 recreational scuba divers from the Coastal Dive Club had planned an exploration of a reef system approximately 2 miles offshore, an area known and recognized for its diverse marine life and interesting underwater topography and formations. Among the divers was David Martinez, a marine biology graduate student from Clemson University, who was documenting reef ecosystems for his research project and studies. David was using underwater photography equipment to capture images and photographs of the reef structure and the various species inhabiting and living in it. At approximately 11:30 in the morning, while exploring a particularly rocky area about 20 feet below the water's surface, David noticed something unusual and unexpected in a crevice between 2 large boulders and rocks. At first, he thought it might be debris from a boat or fishing equipment that had become lodged and stuck in the rocks. But, as he moved closer and directed his underwater light into the narrow space and opening, he realized with absolute horror that what he was looking at appeared to be human remains, partially concealed and hidden by marine growth and sediment. David immediately signaled to his dive partner, Rebecca Foster, who confirmed what he was seeing and observing. The 2 divers carefully documented the location using GPS coordinates from their dive computer equipment, took several photographs without disturbing the scene, and surfaced to contact authorities and officials. The Coast Guard arrived at the location at 12:45 in the afternoon, followed shortly thereafter by a specialized underwater recovery team from the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. The recovery operation took several hours, conducted with painstaking care and attention to preserve any potential evidence and to treat the remains with appropriate dignity and respect. What investigators recovered and retrieved from that underwater crevice was a partially skeletonized human body that had been remarkably well preserved by its specific location. The rocky crevice had protected the remains from strong currents and from much of the marine scavenger activity that typically disperses and scatters human remains in the ocean. Along with the skeletal remains, investigators found fragments and pieces of denim fabric, what appeared to be the remnants of synthetic material from a tank top, and most significantly and importantly, a distinctive turquoise-colored sandal that had somehow remained trapped in the crevice along with the body. The remains were transported and moved to the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston for forensic examination and analysis. Dr. Patricia Moore, the state's chief medical examiner, began the process of analyzing the remains and attempting to establish identity and cause of death. Within 48 hours, preliminary analysis suggested and indicated the remains were those of a young adult female who had been in the water for an extended period, potentially multiple years. The distinctive turquoise sandal became a crucial clue and piece of evidence. Detective Thompson, who had taken over Ashley's case, remembered from the case file documentation that Ashley had been wearing turquoise sandals the night she disappeared. A photograph was sent to the Mitchell family, who confirmed and verified that the sandal matched the pair Ashley had been wearing that fateful night. On August 22, 2024, DNA analysis definitively confirmed what investigators and the Mitchell family had both hoped for and absolutely dreaded. The remains found in the underwater crevice were those of Ashley Marie Mitchell. After 9 years, 2 months, and 18 days, Ashley had finally been found and located. The news reached the Mitchell family through a call from Detective Thompson, who drove to Greenville personally to deliver the notification in person and face-to-face. Karen Mitchell later described and characterized the moment as simultaneously the end of hope and the beginning of a different kind of grief and mourning. For 9 long years, they had lived with the possibility, however remote and unlikely, that Ashley might somehow still be alive. Now they had to confront the absolute finality and permanence of her death. The discovery made national headlines once again and anew. News outlets that had covered Ashley's disappearance in 2015 revisited the story with this new development and information. The image of the peaceful-looking crevice, where Ashley's body had rested for nearly an entire decade, provided a strange kind of closure. She had been close to where she disappeared all along, hidden in a spot that had been searched but never thoroughly explored or examined. But while the discovery answered the fundamental question of where Ashley had been, it raised new questions about how she had ended up in that underwater location and position. The forensic examination would reveal information about Ashley's death, but after 9 years submerged in the ocean, determining exactly what had happened on that 4th of July night in 2015 would prove to be extraordinarily challenging and difficult. The crevice where Ashley was found was approximately 2 miles offshore from the beach, where she had last been seen and observed, in an area with strong currents and rocky underwater terrain and landscape. How had her body traveled and moved from the beach to that specific location? Had she entered the water voluntarily and been swept out to sea by currents? Had she been placed in the water already deceased and lifeless? Had she encountered foul play that led to her death and subsequent entry into the ocean? The investigation into Ashley Mitchell's death, dormant and inactive for so many years, was suddenly active once again and renewed. And the truth about what happened during those final moments on July 4th, 2015, might finally be within reach. Or it might remain forever obscured and hidden by time and the ocean's persistent secrets. The forensic analysis, conducted and performed by Dr. Patricia Moore and her team at the Medical University of South Carolina, revealed both answers and frustrations. DNA analysis definitively confirmed the remains were those of Ashley Marie Mitchell. However, after 9 years submerged and immersed in saltwater, determining a precise cause of death proved virtually impossible and unfeasible. The skeletal remains showed absolutely no obvious signs of trauma that would have been preserved in bone structure. No fractures, no bullet holes, no evidence of blunt force injury to the skull. Soft tissue that might have revealed drowning, strangulation, or other causes of death had long since decomposed and deteriorated. The ocean had erased most of the forensic evidence that might have explained exactly how Ashley died. What investigators could determine was limited, but significant and meaningful. The location where Ashley's body was found, 2 miles offshore in a rocky crevice at 20 feet depth, suggested and indicated she had entered the water near the beach and been carried by ocean currents to that location. Oceanographic analysis indicated and showed that the currents on the night of July 4, 2015, could have transported a body from the beach, where Ashley was last seen, to the area where she was eventually discovered. But critical and crucial questions remained unanswered and unresolved. Had Ashley entered the water voluntarily, perhaps intoxicated or disoriented, and drowned accidentally? Had she been meeting someone by the water and encountered foul play and violence? The witness who reported seeing Ashley talking to an unidentified man around 10:15 in the evening became even more significant and important. But that man was never identified, and 9 years later, finding him seemed completely impossible. Toxicology analysis was inconclusive and uncertain, due to the degradation and deterioration of biological material. Investigators couldn't determine or establish if Ashley had been under the influence of alcohol or drugs when she died, though friends reported she had been drinking moderately throughout the day. Not unusual or abnormal for a holiday celebration, but enough to potentially impair judgment and decision-making. In October 2024, the Myrtle Beach Police Department held a press conference announcing and declaring that while Ashley Mitchell had been found, the circumstances of her death remained undetermined and unclear. Detective Thompson stated that the case was being classified as death under suspicious but unproven circumstances, neither definitively an accident nor conclusively a homicide. The Mitchell family held a funeral service for Ashley on October 15, 2024, finally able to lay their daughter to rest after 9 years of uncertainty and waiting. Ashley was buried at Graceland Cemetery in Greenville, her gravestone reading, Ashley Marie Mitchell, 1996 through 2015. Forever young, forever loved, forever missed. For Karen and James Mitchell, the discovery brought a complex and complicated mixture of relief and renewed anguish and pain. They finally knew where Ashley had been, could finally properly mourn and say goodbye. But they would never know exactly what happened in those final moments, never know if their daughter's death could have been prevented or avoided, never have justice if foul play was involved and responsible. The case remains officially open and active, though investigators acknowledge and admit that without new witnesses coming forward or a dramatic breakthrough in evidence analysis, the full truth of what happened to Ashley Mitchell on July 4, 2015, may never be known or understood. Ashley's story serves as a sobering and serious reminder of how quickly celebration can turn to tragedy and disaster, how easily someone can vanish and disappear even in a crowd and gathering, and how the ocean can keep and maintain its secrets for years upon years. Her case also highlights and emphasizes the agonizing reality that sometimes families get closure on where their loved one is located, but never receive answers about how or why they died. For the thousands upon thousands of young people who flock and travel to beaches every summer season for vacation and celebration, Ashley's story is a cautionary tale and warning about staying aware and conscious of surroundings, staying with friends and companions, and recognizing that dangers can emerge and appear even in the most seemingly carefree and relaxed environments and settings. Emma Mitchell, Ashley's younger sister, now 25 years old, has become an advocate and activist for beach safety and missing persons awareness. She speaks and presents at colleges and universities about the importance and significance of buddy systems and staying vigilant and alert during celebrations and gatherings. She carries her sister's memory forward and onward, ensuring that Ashley's story continues to matter and be meaningful, continues to potentially save others from similar fates and tragedies. The truth about what happened to Ashley Mitchell during those missing and unaccounted hours on Independence Day 2015 remains elusive and mysterious, lost somewhere between the witness accounts, the physical evidence, and the vast Atlantic Ocean that held her for 9 long years before finally giving her back to the family that never stopped searching and hoping for answers and closure.